Welcome back to the Successful Farming Podcast. In today's episode, host Lorrie Boyer talks with Dana Roddy, Director of Promotions, Communications, and Consumer Education for the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association. They dive into Wisconsin's unique strengths in potato production, from its ideal growing conditions and cutting-edge technology to its leadership in producing a wide range of potato varieties and supply markets across the Midwest and beyond. This episode is brought to you by Cropland Seed.
Today's guest on the show is Dana Roddy. She is the Director of Promotions, Communications, and Consumer Education with the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association. Dana, first off, let's learn more about you and get to know you. Tell us about yourself and your background.
Well, it's interesting because I actually do not have a background in agriculture. I have a background in broadcast journalism of all things. So I was a reporter back in the day, met my husband, got married, started a family, and started looking at other ways that I could use my degree in communications and PR. I also happen to be passionate about leadership. And so I saw this job for the Director of Promotions at WPVGA, and I thought I'm just going to go ahead and apply. And just because you apply doesn't mean you're going to get an interview. Just because you get an interview doesn't mean they're going to offer you the job. And anyways, I went in for a couple of interviews and wasn't sure that I was going to get the job. And I thought, chalk it up to experience. And lo and behold, they called me back. And here I am almost 14 years later. Actually, in 2 years, it's going to be 14 years that I've been here. So one thing that I've actually appreciated, though, I've definitely appreciated learning more about agriculture and the ways that growers feed our families and all the effort that they put into that. I also think that it's been valuable for me to work with them because I bring a consumer perspective to a lot of the things that we talk about. And I think sometimes it's very easy when you are ingrained in an industry for so long to lose sight of, or it's harder to step outside the box, right? And so I think that offering that consumer perspective of what people look for, like myself, when they go shopping has been a valuable point of view. It's also a really great industry to work in. There's a ton of great people, and I haven't worked in a lot of different commodities, but I know from my last 14 years that potatoes are really, really fun. It's a really fun commodity. It's great.
What makes it fun?
I think the personalities of the people that are in the industry is a big part of it. They can still have a really great conversation talking about all different kinds of things. They give me a little bit of grief when we're at a restaurant, for a meeting or something, and I order sweet potatoes and I say, "Are you going to kick me out?" And they say, "No, we're not going to kick you out." But they do give me a little bit of grief for ordering sweet potato fries, which I do on occasion to spice things up a little bit. But it's a really great industry. We have a lot of really great people. They are very forward thinking. I think you can say that a lot about different agricultural commodities. This group in particular really likes to look ahead and challenges themselves not to stay ingrained in the same place, right? And so I've really appreciated that because that's brought some invigoration and some color into our conversations, especially related to promotions.
Dana, you touched on what I was going to ask you about next, and that is to tell me more about the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association. Sounds like some out-of-the-box, forward-thinking people that make up the organization.
The association that represents the growers in the state, so they pay assessments into WPVGA on their potato crop alone. So while our growers do produce other vegetables in conjunction with potatoes as part of their crop rotation and as part of vegetable production in general, we only collect assessments on potatoes. We have about 100 growers in the state. Years ago, probably 10, 15, even 20, 25 years ago, there were probably upwards about 250 growers in the state. And now we have about 100. So what that tells you is that the number of farms has decreased. However, what's happened is as the smaller farms have retired or get out of potato farming and move on to something else or sell their farm, or they'll keep the farm, but they'll rent their land. Other growers, multi-generational family farms, have purchased those or rented the land, and we've been able to produce the same number of potatoes over the years, despite the fact that the number of farms has actually decreased. So we produce about 63,000 acres every year of potatoes, and that puts us as third in the nation for potato production behind Washington and Idaho. Idaho, of course, is number one. Washington State is number two. Wisconsin has consistently been number three. And we are also the number one shipper east of the Mississippi. So when you look at the Midwest, we're the largest potato producing state in this area of the Midwest. So we like to tout that. But we have a really great group. Like you said, they're very forward thinking. They incorporate technology into basically everything that they do. It amazes me that farmers are able to control their irrigation systems and their temperatures and their storages simply by touching a button on their iPhones or their iPads. And I don't think a lot of the general public really thinks about how technologically advanced agriculture truly is.
As we start to talk more here on the production side of potatoes, why should consumers care about the quality of potatoes?
When I go to the grocery store, I think a lot of us can relate to this, right? When you go to the grocery store and you buy food for your family, you want something that is going to be nutritious. It's going to be satiating. It's going to hold up. I mean, the last thing anybody wants to do is go and buy fruit or vegetables that all of a sudden are rotten the next day, right? And so I think that when we talk about quality, having that quality from the growers and knowing, for me as a consumer, knowing that what growers are doing from start to finish, way back from even before the seed is planted, all the way back to creating early generation foundational seed, and then seeing that go through the process to cutting the seed and then planting. And this entire process is so much bigger than we give it credit for. And for me, knowing that there are people that are devoting their lives to feeding my family, I want to know that that quality is starting way at the beginning and that people are walking the process along to ensure that that quality is guaranteed over the course of years, right? If we don't have farmers, we don't eat. And I think that's a really big point that I try to drive home in my job. It's very easy to criticize different groups in life, but farmers are actually feeding our families and are actually giving me the vegetables and allowing me to feed my kids so that they have the satiating and they have the energy. And potatoes give you all of that, which is another reason why I really love potatoes. We talk about how potatoes power performance, but you don't have all of that if you don't have the quality. And so knowing that there is an industry that is devoting their lives not only to feeding my family, but ensuring that the quality is going to be there is vital.
And part of that quality is the climate and sustainability practices that growers are using. Tell me more about that for Wisconsin potato growers.
I love Wisconsin. This state amazes me. The amount of energy that this agricultural group here puts into agriculture and different vegetables is amazing to me. And we're not a really big state compared to most, but we put out a lot of stuff in terms of agriculture. And so when you talk about the climate, Wisconsin is really conducive to growing potatoes. We have really warm summer days. We have cool evenings, kind of helps the bulking and helps the skin to set. We have really great sandy soil. We have really great organic soil that is soil that's found in the Endeavor part of the state, which is in the southern part of the state. But Wisconsin just kind of has it all. And we have really good water supply when you have snow in the winter and then you have the runoff. It just all kind of comes together. And so Wisconsin is really ideal for potato production in general. Our state soil is actually state Anago silt loam. And that's found in the Anago area, which is where our office is headquartered. And that's where seed potatoes come from. So there really isn't an area in Wisconsin that isn't conducive to potatoes. And I think it's really easy for people when they hear Wisconsin to think of cheese. Well, of course, we have really great cheese. We have really great dairy and specialty cheeses and specialty meats, cranberries, ginseng, the whole gamut: peas, corn, sweet beans, snap beans. But when you talk about potatoes and the ability that we have to produce such an amazing crop, a lot of people really don't think about that. And so I'm privileged to be able to bring that to the forefront.
Are the potato farms located in a certain area of Wisconsin, Dana?
We have farms as far north as Eagle River. I live in Rhinelander, which is called the Northwoods part of the state. So north of that, by about a half hour, is Eagle River Seed Farm. We do have a potato farm in Rhinelander as well. And then a lot of the seed comes from the Anago area. And then we have what we call the Central Sands, which is south of Wausau, Stevens Point, Plover, Friesland, Grand Marsh, all those areas in the center part of the state and farther south is where the fresh potato crop comes from, processed for frozen fry and chip and the like. And then we also have a little potato company built a facility here a few years ago, and they're located in DeForest. And so they contract with our growers as well on little potatoes.
When are potatoes planted?
About March, if possible. We like to be in the fields by the end of March. There's one grower in Wisconsin that touts, I kind of chuckle, touts being in the ground by the 20th of every year. I'm not sure if that's actually happened every single year that they've been farming, but it's kind of a joke that we have in the industry of whether or not they're going to be in the ground first. But otherwise, April, just like harvest, planting starts in the southern part of the state and gradually works its way north. So Anago does not start at the same time as Friesland or Grand Marsh. Again, depending on Mother Nature, it's usually delayed by a week to several days, maybe 2 weeks, depending on Mother Nature's capabilities that year. But we try to be in the field you'll have April and then even part of May. To go to the end of May is rare, usually probably about the middle of May. Again, all dependent on Mother Nature's climate that particular year.
And then what time of the year are they harvested?
Early harvest on early varieties starts the end of July. And then that is followed by yellows and then followed by russets. We usually try to be done by the end of September at the latest. Of course, all of that is dependent on the hand that Mother Nature deals us every year. If we go into October, it's rare, but we definitely don't want to go too far into October because that's when we can see a lot of rain and frost and freezing. We've gotten snow in October, and so when the ground starts freezing, potatoes can handle a frost. If you have a really deep frost too many days in a row or too close together, that's when it can be detrimental. And so getting too far into October threatens that just a little bit more. We can have a really saturated September as well. However, again, September is one of those iffy months. So, we try to be done by the end of September at the latest and kind of mold as we need to.
Dana, what kind of pests do potato producers deal with and how do they mitigate them?
We're really blessed. I mean, I think a lot of commodities have this, and I know potatoes do in other regions. We have a really incredible research team at UW-Madison. So Madison is our state capital. Madison, we have the UW system, University of Wisconsin system, and a lot of our research team for potatoes resides at UW-Madison in horticulture, plant pathology, entomology, working with pests, working with soil health, working with disease resistance and pest management. And so when we talk about integrated pest management or IPM, we basically have people whose job it is at our farms that we represent who walk through the fields and just look for pests and make sure that the plant is staying healthy and reporting back on what they see. And they do that on a regular basis throughout the year. And then they work with our research team basically very closely and say, what can we do? Here's where we're at. There's some threat to late blight. That was what caused the potato famine in Ireland years ago, and took out the potato crop. And so we can have late blight here as well, but our research team is very good about monitoring. The biggest threat crazy enough, often comes from gardens where people have tomatoes, because late blight can be in tomatoes. And so if we aren't monitoring what's happening and some of that infiltrates into a local or a field close by, then we can have issues with that. But our research team is really good at working with growers and saying, okay, we've had a threat of late blight over here. Just beware. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're handling it. And that also contributes to the high quality of the crop that our growers produce every year.
Dana, how many different kinds of potato varieties are out there? I've heard of some unique things like fingerlings, purple potatoes. So tell me more about how many varieties are available and what some of those varieties are.
It's ironic because Wisconsin, I didn't realize this until I started here, but Wisconsin produces the most varieties of any state. And that can be hundreds. It's crazy. The other interesting point is that when you go to the grocery store, you can find, Envy apples, Cosmic apples, Honeycrisp apples, Gala apples, all these different varieties of apples. So usually that industry has gotten into buying apples basically by variety for the use that you want or the flavor that you want for the pie that you're baking or what have you. We have so many different varieties in potatoes. Consumers are not geared towards buying necessarily potatoes based on variety, nor are they marketed that way. So we have types of potatoes, which would be your russet, your red, your yellow, which are also called gold, yellow or gold, and then your specialty, which would be your fingerlings, your little petite potatoes, your purples, the colors. We have varieties, which would be a russet Burbank. So a Burbank would be a variety of the type russet. We also have Silverton. We also have Gold Rush. We also have a white Snowden. So Snowden would be the variety for the white. We have Red Norland, Dark Red Norland. We have Yukon Gold. A lot of people know Yukon Golds. Did you know, I'm going to actually test you on something, Lorrie. Did you know what constitutes a true Yukon Gold potato?
Probably something that has to do with where it's grown at.
Not exactly. It has pink eyes.
Ah.
So if you look at a true Yukon Gold potato, the eye of the potato, around it, it will be pink. And that's what constitutes a true Yukon Gold potato. So there's your potato 101 for the day. A lot of people say they're going to buy Yukon Gold potatoes because that's the variety that they're most familiar with. But unless it has pink eyes, it's not a true Yukon Gold potato. Our industry has talked about wanting to put varieties on the bags for potatoes and get more into selling potatoes by variety, because you can really eat any potato as a fresh potato. If you eat them side by side, you're going to notice different flavors, textures, which is why a lot of them are used for different uses. So like a Burbank potato would be mostly for a frozen. You can eat a Burbank potato as a fresh potato, but a lot of them go to the frozen fry market. White Snowden is usually for chips because of how it fries, because of its round shape, because of its color, because when you fry it, how the sugars interact with the oils and the color that constitutes it results. But if you took Gold Rush and Silverton and put them side by side, unless you understood the characteristics, it would be hard to say, this is a Silverton, this is a Gold Rush. Of course, our growers know. I have a hard time differentiating between all of them. But we've talked about getting into where we could sell potatoes based on variety. It is complicated to do something like that. And you'd have to have a lot of people on the same page, including retail stores, to be on the same page with that, because it does get a little convoluted when you have some of those conversations. But we do have a lot of varieties that we produce in Wisconsin. And I'll also add that we have a Spud Pro committee under WPVGA that works with researchers on developing new varieties that are conducive to different elements and different soils. So if a grower in Anago says, I'm looking for a russet potato that lasts longer in storage and is conducive to my soil type that I live in, they would bring that to the Spud Pro committee and work with our research team on, okay, what can we do to help give you that and give you the market for it? It takes years for a variety that is developed to hit a retail store if it's going for fresh, but that is all part of what WPVGA does. So it's a totally different world. I never knew looking at a potato how intricate the behind the scenes world was, but it really is intricate.
Dana, are most potatoes machine harvested?
They're harvested with machines that are GPS run pretty much. You still have somebody that's sitting, driving it, but it keeps you straight. It tells you where the potatoes are. So our growers will kill the vines. It's not the prettiest time of year. It's beautiful because you're getting closer to the potatoes hitting the market. But when you look at the field, you say, wow, that looks kind of funny. When the potatoes are blooming, they have blossoms. The plants above the soil get blooms on them, get little flowers on them, and the flowers correlate with the color of the potato. So like red potatoes would have a purple flower on it, and most of the other varieties have like a white flower to it. So that's a really beautiful time of year when you can see the canopies and you can see these flowers and the sun shining. It's just really great. So once the potatoes are getting closer to being ready to be harvested, the growers will kill the vines and then let them sit for 3 weeks and then basically go ahead and harvest them. So the harvester comes with these, fingers underneath, pulls it up onto a rail, and then the potatoes go up into a truck. And then once that truck is full, there's another one behind it that's ready to, follow through. And then those potatoes, once they're harvested, right away, we go through a process in Wisconsin where we say it's shipping off the field. So it'll go right from the field to be washed to going to the retail store or its end result. And then after a few weeks of that, we put them into storage. And that's when we are able to store them under the adequate conditions for the rest of the year until the new crop is ready to come in.
Hey, Jim.
Bob?
Quite a season, huh?
Yeah, there was a lot stacked against us, but that's where having a solid plan and, data-driven insights instead of just guessing really made the difference.
Yeah.
Yep. We looked at soil types and other research to make sure every acre had the right seed to maximize ROI potential.
That's great. But I was referring to the Greyhounds being undefeated.
Oh.
Cropland seed, anything but typical.
How long can potatoes be stored for?
12 months. When we had COVID, it was really interesting to me. Everybody was hoarding everything for COVID, right? And they were hoarding potatoes. And we were all like, you do not have to hoard potatoes. If you store them in the right conditions, they will last for literally months. So potatoes like it cool, dark, and dry. I would say between 40 and 50 degrees is adequate. You want them in like a somewhat of a ventilated bag, which is why a lot of the bags that you see have holes in them to allow for that airflow. You don't want them exposed to light, but you can store them for months. So our growers have temperature controlled storages where they have these big tubes underneath this huge pile of potatoes, and they strategically place these tubes in the storage. And the tubes have holes in them so that you can get the ventilation and you can get the airflow. If you don't have that and you put potatoes in a storage unit and one is rotten, let's say, one bad apple ruins it for everybody else. Well, one rotten potato in storage could infiltrate into the others if you don't have that airflow and the temperature control. So when the potatoes go into storage, the growers turn the temperature of the unit down to put the potatoes to sleep until they're ready to be shipped. And then they wake them back up by increasing the temperature again, and then go ahead with shipping out of that particular storage facility and bring it into their packing plant.
What is the most popular time of the year for people to purchase potatoes, Dana?
Probably now and through the holidays. It's always interesting to me because we still do promotions for over the holidays, but we don't really have to because it's over the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday that I don't know a family that doesn't make some kind of potato in some way for their family gatherings. Easter is another big one, of course. St. Patrick's Day with the red potatoes. Red potatoes are flying around St. Patrick's Day, right? And so I would say probably now. And the other reason that this time of year is really popular is because we are a 12-month shipper of potatoes. But when the new crop hits the market, it's great. It's seeing all the new fresh Wisconsin potatoes on the market and then seeing that carry through. But when the new crop hits the market, people are really going to the stores.
What about when it comes to exporting versus domestic use of potatoes?
It's interesting that you ask that because most of them stay here in Wisconsin and the Midwest. We also are working with other states, especially east of the Mississippi. Minnesota, Red River Valley will work with us as well if they need something to fill an order or provide some supply. But otherwise, we have started dabbling, believe it or not, into exporting Wisconsin potatoes into Mexico. And we have over the years done some business with Canada as well. So it's a totally new area because Wisconsin isn't a major exporting state for things other than cranberries, of course, are really big. Ginseng is big. But potatoes, we've started dabbling into it, and it's been a really unique opportunity.
Let's go back to talking about marketing. What are some ways that growers market their potatoes?
Each grower works with their customer base. Wisconsin is more of a retail state than we are food service. We do some food service business, but it's smaller in the grand scheme of things compared to other states. So we mainly go to retail. So each grower is more often than not going to have their set number of customers that they work with. And they have those conversations with those retail stores. There are times where the retail store would say, hey, I would really love to do this Wisconsin potato promotion in October when we can do something really fun right before the holidays to get people thinking more about potatoes and buying local. And so then the grower would reach out to us as WPVGA to be a resource. Can you provide, some posters? Can you provide some banners? Can you provide some point of purchase or POP materials? And so that's how we kind of work with that. We also have the Spudmobile, which is something that WPVGA with the growers help created back in 2012, 13, and 14. It debuted in 2014, but we were having conversations about this vehicle long before 2014, long even before I started 14 years ago. And so what this vehicle is we purchased an RV. And instead of having bedroom, kitchen, living room in the RV, we took all of that out except for the driver and passenger seats and basically replaced everything with some kind of an exhibit that talks about the potato industry. And so that's something that my department manages with a driver's help. We take it around to sporting events, fairs, community events, the Wisconsin State Fair, and it basically helps people who have no clue about agriculture and are farther removed from how their food is produced. It helps them experience farming while they're in there because there's 8 exhibits on the inside. 4 of them are digital content in nature. And it's really fun and cool to see people come in and say, how do you make potatoes? How do you grow potatoes? How do potatoes get to the retail store? And we can actually walk them through and have a conversation. There's videos playing in there. There's iPads with games on it. Kids love it. And if kids are coming in and playing the games, then of course the parents follow suit. And so having those conversations and then seeing them when we're at a grocery store, for example, seeing them leave the Spudmobile and then go into the retail store and come out with a bag of Wisconsin potatoes is awesome. Really awesome. So that's how we've marketed. And then WPVGA doesn't promote one farm over the other, but what we do is we talk about the nutrition of potatoes. We talk about the importance of buying local. We showcase the multi-generational family farms that are located in Wisconsin and are feeding families. And so we stay very high level with our communications and our promotions to make sure that everybody, when they go to the store, is looking for Wisconsin potatoes, and here's why you should do that. And then, of course, if they're in one retail store or the other, they're going to see one brand over the other, but at least they're buying Wisconsin potatoes. And so that's how we handle both of those dynamics.
Dana, what about the economics for the potato industry? How are prices looking?
Really good. The crop is looking amazing. It's looking fantastic for Wisconsin this year. We have had some warmer heat units this year. And so growers haven't been able to harvest as late into the day as they wanted. If you harvest when it's too warm outside, you can have some challenges in storage. And so they like to harvest when it's cooler. So they've been starting early in the morning, finishing midday. So that's extending our harvest season just a little bit. But the quality is looking fantastic. We're excited about the crop that's hitting the market. It's a very affordable vegetable. I think the statistic is that if you go to the grocery store, for every $1, you can buy more potatoes per pound for that $1 than you can other vegetables. And so potatoes provide the most nutrients per penny. It's an extremely healthy vegetable. But if you're looking for something that is going to keep you feeling full for a longer period of time, that is incredibly versatile in every way, shape, and form, even for desserts, that's delicious, that you can do so many things with, and that's highly nutritious and affordable, potatoes are your vegetable.
Dana, we've primarily talked about consumers eating potatoes, but what about some other uses? I think of things like potatoes used for vodka.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's actually a distillery here in Wisconsin that uses vodka from potatoes grown at a farm just down the road. And so we like to use that potato vodka in different things. But yeah, vodka is one of them. Desserts are a favorite of mine. I never realized how much you could do with potatoes in terms of desserts. And I'm even going to expand on that a little bit further. When you look at dehydrated potatoes or instant potatoes, you can do a lot with instant potatoes for breads and cookies, and using it as a flour, using it as a thickener for gravy. And the reason that that's significant is because gluten-free diets are becoming more and more popular. Potatoes are naturally gluten-free, and they have more potassium than a banana. So for people that need a gluten-free diet, using instant mashed potatoes, using fresh potatoes. You could even mash up a potato and then use that into I made potato nuggets the other day. So I basically took mashed potatoes, mixed in some cheese and sour cream and some paprika and salt and pepper, and put that together in a little oblong nugget. Put it in the fridge for about a half hour, took it out and rolled it in panko crumbs, flavored panko crumbs, and then air fried it. And my kids love it. It's simple, it's healthy, it's satiating, it's fun. They could even help do it. But there's so many different uses out there for potatoes. You don't just have to think about potatoes in terms of fries or of course, baked potato. All of those are fantastic. But if you like to experiment in the kitchen, or if you're looking for something on the go, mashed potato sundaes is another favorite of my family's. So we're a family that our kids are in sports. We're constantly on the go. Every weekend is booked with something. And so I don't like to eat out at a restaurant every single time we're gone. So I like to bring food. And I made mashed potato sundaes one day. I had some roast beef in the slow cooker and then made a quick gravy. So while all of that was cooking, I got some frozen corn, heated that up. I got some green onions. I got some cheese, sour cream, tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and basically made mashed potatoes and then layered mashed potatoes, meat, corn, cheese, sour cream, and just kept doing that in a mason jar, a pint-sized mason jar, put the cover on it. And that was our dinner in the car, literally on the way to a game. And my kids were like, Mom, this is so great. This tastes awesome. And it was so simple. But a lot of people think about potatoes, oh, I've got to spend all this time. It's going to take way too long. No, it's not going to take long. You just have to find the right recipe that's going to fit the timeline that you want. But that's probably one of my favorite things, is to cook unique dishes with potatoes and desserts and snacks and center of the plate, and then talk to people about that and have their eyebrows go up wow, I never even thought about that. Mm-hmm. Those are some of my favorites, but potatoes are an incredibly versatile vegetable.
What about using potatoes for livestock feed?
It will go to feed if there are is product that can't be sold in another market because of contracts or open market. It will go to feeding cattle. It does go to dog food. Dogs love potatoes. We have a dog, and every time I make my recipe, he's coming into the kitchen and like looking at me like, I would really like to try that. So sometimes I give him a little piece of mashed potato, but yeah, potatoes do go to dog feed and to cattle feed. Cattle feed is usually a last resort, depending on what else is going on for that particular organization.
Such good information and such great conversation here today, Dana. Before we wrap up, though, let's talk a little bit more about the sustainability program there.
Sustainability is a really interesting concept, and it's definitely profound, multifaceted. I think more of the younger generations of today are asking where their food comes from, how it's produced, what are they doing to my food, how am I getting it? And they're starting to ask those questions. I'm always amazed at the amount of care and consideration and effort Wisconsin growers put into providing these potatoes. Other crops too. I'm talking about potatoes because that's the industry that I work in, and it's my favorite, frankly. But there is economic sustainability, there is environmental sustainability, and there's social sustainability. And all of those are impacted by how our growers conduct their business. So for example, we have a Wisconsin Healthy Grown program that is our sustainability program and allows growers to document everything that they're doing to grow the crop. And with that kind of sustainability also comes social sustainability in how the organizations are doing business and treating employees and the longevity. So that translates into social sustainability. And then there's economic sustainability, where you don't have a business if you can't be economically sustainable. And I think all of those points are extremely vital in terms of the quality. You mentioned quality at the beginning of our conversation, in terms of longevity, in terms of continuing to feed families. Our growers have really good employees that have been around for a long time. They're multi-generational family farms. And I think all of that is really important to take into account. And that kind of also translates into the importance of buying local. If you're in Wisconsin and you have the opportunity to buy Wisconsin potatoes, do it. Those potatoes will get to your plate at what we call a lower carbon footprint, which is the potatoes travel less miles to get to your plate than if you were to buy potatoes from a state out west, if you find them in Wisconsin or in the Midwest. That's important because the lower carbon footprint also contributes to higher levels of sustainability because there's less waste. So if you get the opportunity to buy local on any commodity, really, you should do it. And not only are you getting a fresher product, and not only are you getting a product at a lower carbon footprint, but you're also getting a product that is going to help feed your family and is going to contribute to a healthy economy and the businesses that are local to your area and keeping them vibrant, which is also jobs, right? So this whole sustainability conversation is really broad and really big. And I'm just proud that Wisconsin takes as much care as it does into all of those things to ensure the quality product that you can take home at the end of the day.
Is there a label that you use to promote sustainably grown potatoes?
We have the Healthy Grown Sustainability seal. It's a red seal and it says Wisconsin Healthy Grown. So you would know if you were buying those potatoes.
This has been an extremely educational conversation here today, Dana. Thank you so much. Dana Roddy, Director of Promotions, Communications, and Consumer Education with the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association. For Successful Farming, I'm Lorrie Boyer.
Thank you to our guest today, Dana Roddy, for sharing your expertise on Wisconsin potatoes. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Cropland Seed. For more information like this, visit agriculture.com, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can also follow Successful Farming on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, and be sure to check out our other podcasts, 15 Minutes of the Farmer, Successful Farming Daily, wherever you get your podcast.